Alright guys, you got fishing mode here. We're out on the lake in New Hampshire for the weekend, for 4th of July weekend, and I'm going to try something different. I'm going to give you guys your first how-to. So, my first run-to when I'm fishing is usually wacky. So, I'm going to give you your first how-to on how I throw my wacky worms. I catch a lot of fish on wacky. That's why I normally run to it. It's usually the first thing I start with in the morning and the first thing I end with at the end of the day. Usually it doesn't matter what lake you're on. Pending colors, which I'm pretty basic with my colors. I used to buy every color that Bass Pro had on their shelf and never use any of them. So now I buy about 3 colors, and that's pretty much what I stick with. If they're not biting those 3 colors, then I'm doing something wrong. So I'm going to give you your first how-to. We'll get started. Alright guys, so here's the first how-to on my go-to bait is the wacky worm. So basically all you need is a Senko, any color, doesn't particularly matter. I use the rings, the little black rings, and a hook. I have my hook set up like this, and all my weights. So you got weedless ones, you got 3/0, you got 2/0, you got wacky weedless, you got weights, more rings. So that's basically how I set my hook box up. So what you're gonna do is you get your line. What I do for a knot is, I forget what it's called, but you fold your line over like that. You pick up, what I use is I use a 2/0, a Bass Pro 2/0. It is a super lock, extra wide gap hook. You take your line, you fold it. You fold it in half. You stick the folded part through the hook like that. So then you take the looped end and then the line end, you tie a knot. Tie the knot so you got no slack. Then once you get the loop in your line, you stick the open end through the looped end, you bite it, you grab the hook, and you pull them both tight. And then I always give it a couple extra tugs, make sure we're tight, and then you snip off the end, leaving yourself a little tail. So that's the hook setup. So now what we do is we take our little ring setter, you slide the ring up. I like blue black, it's one of my go-to baits. This is just a Bass Pro brand, Sticko. I buy them like, 30, 50 packs. It's 5 3/8 black blue flake. You take the worm, you stick it in the ring thing, and you slide the ring right on it. You try to get it right in the middle, which is right by the flat part and where the bumpy part starts. So you got that. Then, as basic as it comes, you take your hook, stick your hook through the ring, and that's what you got right there. Now I'm going to retie this because I got a little splice in my line right there, but that's what you got. That's your finished product right there. Now I don't use a weed guard or anything. Some people do, but I'll cast this right in the weeds with the open hook and everything. But I just, you end up pulling a lot of weeds off but it sinks quicker, and I think it has better action personally. So that's the setup right there. Now let me show you how to fish it. All right, so I'm all set up, tied and everything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast on structure. I'm either going to look for structure or weeds. So now I cast it out there where I want it to sit, and I pretty much, for the most part, if it's not windy, I'll watch my line. So I'll let it sit for like 2, 3, 4 seconds, then I'll lift it. Unless I see my line run, and then I lift it, reel in the slack, and set the hook. So basically, the bait pretty much does all the work as I fish it. I bet on where I'm casting to catch the fish, not so much working it in. So when I cast, I just pretty much let it sit. So if I want to cast on a tree, I cast at that exact spot I want on the tree. If I cast in the weeds, I cast right where I want. I let it sit for a couple seconds, and then I reel it in and recast it. Me personally, I don't work it too much. Like I said, I let the bait do the work, and I let my casting do the work. So if you're landing where you want to be, and where you believe there's a fish, then you have a better shot of catching a fish. So now I'm fishing about 3 feet of water, casting to, I don't know, about a foot into some rocks and some little pads. I'm throwing this on a medium heavy. It's actually a 13 to 5 black rod with a 2500 Daiwa reel, RG 2500. I prefer the 2500 reels because they're not an overwhelming amount of line on them, and they run smooth. They're smaller in profile. That's what I prefer, the smaller profile. But like I said, this is a 7.1 to 5 black. It's a great reel. Great reel and rod setup. The only thing I did not like about it is the hook keeper. It's open on the top of it, so if you're running your rod, like reeling in, it was getting stuck on there. So all I did was take a piece of black tape and I looped the black tape around it, and now I don't have that issue anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep taking this, and I'm just going to keep throwing in spots where I think there's fish. I call it target fishing. So I'm fishing spots where I believe there's fish. I'm letting the bait sink to the bottom and hoping that the fish pick it up on the bottom. So once I either have weight or I see my line start running in the water, then I pull up, see if there's a fish on there, and then I set the hook from there. Alright, so now we moved from the rocks into the weeds where I like to fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for holes, is what I call target fishing. I'm looking for holes in the weeds where there's an opening where the wacky worm can sink and hit the bottom. And usually they'll grab it on the drop, or they'll grab it when it hits the ground. And we're just going to keep plugging away like that until we can reel one in. So now there's an opening on that side. I'll hit it. Now we're in, right now we're in some lily pads. We're in some, I don't know, I call them string weeds because they look like string. And the little lily pads. And usually on a day like this where the sun's right over, it's almost 10 o'clock in the morning. Sun's mid-high. It's warm. The water's heating up almost 80 degrees back here. But yeah, we'll keep hitting these holes until something grabs it. have the patience to pull weeds off your hook almost every cast, then casting this wacky in the weeds is probably not for you. You got to be very, very patient with it, because, I'm literally casting this thing in weeds. So every time I reel in, I got something like that. So now you got to pull it off and then recast. But this technique, to me, is great. It produces every tournament, every time I'm pleasure fishing, pretty much every time I go out. This is this is my go-to. From, sometimes, like I said, I'll switch colors if this one isn't working. I happen to know this one's working because I was throwing it all morning. So we just gotta find where some fish are laying out. So now there's a dock right there. They might be hiding under the dock because it's warm and sunny. So the fish are pretty much looking for places to get out of the sun. Look, come here. So something just grabbed it, dragged my line. So ready, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reel up on it, and then I'm gonna set the hook. There he is. So what I'm gonna do, pull him up. Now you got that wacky rig. I pull the worm up. He's got the hook pretty good. I'm gonna go in there with the grabbers. Pop the hook out. Pop the hook out. And then we're gonna let him go. That's how you catch them on a wacky rig. Yeah. Like I said, if you like the content, like and subscribe. I can get a lot more of these out. If you get a preference on what you want to see, you can put that out. I'll answer questions. Anything you guys are interested in, just let me know. Fishing mode out. Thank you for watching.